So welcome to today's program. It's an exciting one, Changing Behavior Through Innovation, sponsored by Moss Adams. We'll hear from Chris shortly. And we partnered with Fuse to bring you this program and focus on innovation. Innovation is critical, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. My name is Tony Umek. I'm the board chairman for the Regional Chamber. Really pleased to be here. Lori Matson, our CEO, is unavailable for us today, but here with thoughts and prayers for her. She's feeling a little bit off the weather, and she'll be better, I'm sure, in a couple of days. Before we start, I'd like to ask you all to join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Please, if you'd stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. I appreciate that. What we're going to do now is have an opportunity to hear from our presenting sponsor, Moss Adams. Chris Rivard, partner and a good friend, is here to say a few words about the company. Chris, if you come up forward, please.
Thanks, Tony. My name is Chris Rivard. I'm a partner in charge of the Kennewick office of Moss Adams. Also happen to be the treasurer of the chamber, so it's nice to be here and being a part of this. Moss Adams, I'm going to keep this brief, no slideshow. Tell you a little bit about us and a little bit about why innovation is so important to us. Moss Adams is a national accounting firm, primarily based in the western United States. We have, in the last few years, added some offices in Denver and Dallas and Houston, so we're starting to stretch out across the United States, but have always been West Coast based, more or less. We have about 3,000 employees, with 200 or so of those in eastern Washington. We are a firm that believes in industry specialization. So we have verticals in most industries, including agribusiness, healthcare, manufacturing and distribution, construction, technology, and several others. And we also have practice expert verticals in a variety of things like wealth planning, business succession, international business, and many more. Our offices, though, even though we're a large firm, we feel like we are community-based, community-focused, and try to practice that way. Our goal is to, regardless of the situation or the need, is to be able to work as a team, a one-firm sort of belief that we can bring the right people to the table regardless of where we are or what the circumstances is. As I said, innovation is a big deal for us. We have, we hope, at Moss Adams a culture of innovation and transformation is the word we use because it is happening so fast. We believe with this pace of technological change that businesses also need to react, not just react, but anticipate the change that's coming at them so quickly. We see things like data analytics, cloud computing, machine learning. You've heard the term blockchain. Those are things that impact the businesses that we see and impact how we relate to those businesses as well. And we want to be navigators to those businesses and helping them negotiate that pace of change and helping them anticipate what's coming down the pipe. That hasn't always been the case for accountants. We have a reputation for being very historical focused. Bayoneting the wounded is a term that I hear quite often related to hopefully how we practice in the past, but our goal is to change that paradigm and practice in a much more proactive way, becoming very, very technological based, as I said, and helping anticipate change as it impacts both us, how we do what we do, but also how it impacts our clients. So we're very excited to have a speaker like we do today to talk about these types of issues because it is definitely first and foremost in our minds. So we appreciate the opportunity to work with the Chamber and hopefully as a business make an impact in Tri-Cities. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. As you said, Chris is also involved with the Chamber. Appreciate his support and his company's support. So what is innovation? So if you Google it, you can get a variety of definitions. One is that business innovation, which is what our focus is. It's an organization's process for introducing new ideas, workflows, methodologies, services, or products. And you could probably add a few more words to that. I think as business leaders, we know the importance of innovating. If we're not innovating, we're either going to become extinct or irrelevant. And if you want examples of that, history is full of them. Most recently, some companies that some of us thought would have been around forever, like Kodak, and other companies that were busting at the seams a couple of years ago, like Blockbuster, have now become either extinct or irrelevant. And there are a number of others just like that. Now, what's the purpose of the regional chamber? Really is to represent all of our businesses. And we now have 1,400 members, actually just a few more than 1,400. That's an exciting number. It makes us one of the largest in the state, which means we have an opportunity to exercise some influence. We'll talk a little bit about some of the things we can do and have done. A couple things that I'd like to focus on just for a minute. One is the comment of working with other companies, and we've done that and we'll continue to do that. You heard about from Moss Adams. Another example is Battelle. We established a program called Economic Gardening. If you're not familiar with it, I would encourage you to go to the website for the Chamber and read about it. It's a great opportunity to help second stage companies by investing and giving them the opportunity to learn about how to make their business more prosperous. We were instrumental in bringing that to the Northwest, and in April of 2016, the Chamber staff, with support from Senator Brown, got Governor Jay Inslee to sign Senate Bill 6100, which set up the Economic Gardening Department within Washington State. So that was the first time that's been done, and if you go to the Washington State website, you'll find that as well. We also partner with Washington River Protection, and they do a lot for us. You'll hear more about this later, but a keystone in our mission of promoting regional prosperity, strengthening the business climate, and our members by being advocates, leaders, and networking and providing opportunities to work together. Working with these companies really helps us quite a bit. We're also excited to bring you the opportunity we have with partnering with Fuse. They're at the head of the curve, and I was joking with one of the folks earlier, when you're a dinosaur like some of us are, it's really good to have the new mammals that are coming forward talk to us about what's happening in the world. So this will be a great opportunity for us. For that, I'd like to invite Jess Stanglin, Community Manager for Fuse, to come up and say a few words, please. And she's also going to do some things for us that will get us excited. Thanks, Jess.
We ready? All right. Hi, I'm Jess Stanglin, the Community Manager at Fuse. So many of you have heard of Fuse. Maybe you've attended an event there, but many of you may be wondering, what is Fuse? Back in 2014, a group of 35 freelancers, remote workers, entrepreneurs, and business professionals met at Startup Weekend and made meaningful connections, putting their ideas into action. That experience triggered something powerful, and the group agreed they needed to keep that atmosphere going. So they formed Fuse, a co-working space that brings together a variety of educational backgrounds and skill sets into a shared environment. This dynamic allows for a constant exchange of ideas and knowledge sharing that is truly unique. Fuse is ultimately people coming together to create something new, from business startups to community events. And since its creation, over 84 companies have successfully launched out of Fuse. Let's take a look at 3 ways Fuse has integrated innovation across its platforms. To support emerging companies, Fuse developed Tri-Cities Launch. Tri-Cities Launch is an accelerator program consisting of multiple pipelines for business development. Launch University is a track of weekly evening classes and homework, culminating in a pitch night, where ideas receive on-the-spot feedback similar to an episode of Shark Tank. Launch Weekend is a 3-day challenge where people bring their ideas and form teams, then spend the next 72 hours developing that idea into a concrete business model, which they then present on a final night to a panel of judges. The Tri-Cities Launch program raises the level of entrepreneurial aptitude in the community by fostering those innovators and entrepreneurs not typically well supported in small community ecosystems. The Launch program links great ideas to resources, mentors, and investors. Since its inception in 2014, Tri-Cities Launch has hosted 438 participants, formed 128 teams, created 84 new companies, and over 400 jobs. Fuse is a huge supporter of local growth and the place to start a business. To support its members, Fuse built an on-site podcast studio. Earlier this year, Fuse applied for and received a grant from PNNL to install a podcast studio. Originally, the idea was that the podcast studio would allow businesses to expand their reach through marketing and educating potential clients. But the idea expanded, and now Fuse hosts the first podcast studio in the Tri-Cities open to the public. And instead of just telling our members about this studio, we thought we'd show them. So pulling from Fuse's talented members, myself and 4 others created, hosted, and recorded a How to Podcast series. We demonstrated using the equipment, developing great content, and how to market and distribute a podcast. All these videos are up on the Fuse YouTube channel, and we'll be doing another series in November for anyone looking to start a podcast. Notable podcasts that have been recorded include Tri-Citizens, Fireside Chats, How I Landed Here, and The Paralysis Report, along with numerous one-offs created by our members. The studio has been used for more than just podcasting. Many businesses and individuals have used it to record training manuals, audiobooks, music, and voiceovers. The applications are countless. And finally, to support our community at large, Fuse organizes and sponsors TriConf. TriConf is an annually held multi-day bar camp style conference. It is truly an event for the community, by the community, and creates an atmosphere that is ripe for new connections and ideas. The format is grassroots and crowdsourced. Participants gather on the Wednesday before the conference weekend to nominate topics, talks, and speakers using giant Post-it boards and sticky notes, then vote on the talks they most want to hear. Event organizers tally the results and build the schedule, culminating in 2 full days of 20-minute talks on a variety of categories, from art and tech to community outreach, business ownership, and life hacks. In the last 5 years, thousands of attendees have heard hundreds of talks, sparking numerous collaborative projects, including most notably TEDx Richland. Yeah! So as you can see, along with launching great businesses, Fuse is a nexus for learning, hosting and sponsoring outstanding events and programs open to the community. Fuse actively champions innovation and collaboration and creates an atmosphere where you can be your most productive self. If you'd like to chat more about how you can plug into this amazing community, you can contact me. There's plenty of Fusers around this room, and any one of us would love to take you to coffee and tell you more about us.
I want to talk a little bit more about what the Chamber has done that I think tries to help us move forward. One of the things is focusing on the health of all of our folks. I think maybe it's always been important, it certainly has, but certainly in today's world where we have tremendous stress, things are changing quickly, that puts us in a position where health becomes very important. We're in our 4th week of Good Health is Good Business. That's something that the Chamber brought to the community several years ago. It's been very successful. A number of us have participated in it. A great supporter of that is the Tri-Cities Cancer Center. And I didn't hear you. What was that? All right, good. Okay, and with that, I'd like to invite Michael Novakovich to come up and talk a little bit about women's health. Mike?
Well, good afternoon, Chamber members. The Tri-Cities Cancer Center is excited to partner with the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce and many of you for Good Health is Good Business, and it makes great sense to us, particularly this month as we're talking about women's health. Ladies, you need to woman up.
Listen up, sisters. Among us, there are girls. Among us, there are ladies. But most importantly among us, there are women. Women make the world go round, so woman up. Hey, little Miss Fancy Pants, what's up?
Women's health, my friend. Women's health.
Women's health. This message is for the girls, the ladies, and most importantly, for you women out there. We need to take control of our health. When a woman is in control, #goals. Hey, Shannon, have you had your pap test? I know. It can be awkward. Well, giddy up and get her done, girlfriend, because cervical cancer is very real, but it's also treatable when found early. The pap test is nothing to be bashful about. Cervical cancer can be prevented by having your pap test, as precancerous lesions can be treated and cured before they turn into cancer. Be healthy, get screened, woman up.
Well, at least I have my mammogram scheduled. I haven't had my mammogram in over 3 years.
What?
Hey, it's uncomfortable and it's embarrassing.
So is body waxing. But I see you're as smooth as a baby seal. Hey, my sister from another mister. Breast cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer in women and the second leading cause of cancer-related death in women. While guidelines vary, women should consider having their mammograms starting at age 40. Have a conversation with your physician to determine what is most appropriate for you. Be healthy, get squeezed, woman up!
Oh, look, they're having a special on a cleanse. Maybe we could get a twofer.
Excuse me, ladies. Have you had your colonoscopies? Here's the deal. You can get a cleanse for little or no cost when you schedule your colonoscopy. You know, you get the bowel prep kit that really makes you go till you can't go no more. It's a healthy cleanse. Hello, size 4. Colorectal cancer is the third leading cause of cancer-related death in women. Starting at age 50, women at average risk should have a colonoscopy. Ladies with a family history may need to start even sooner. Colonoscopies can prevent colorectal cancer by removing precancerous polyps during the procedure. Be healthy, bottoms up, woman up. Christy, do you still smoke?
Girl, I smoked for about 30 years, but I kicked the habit 3 years ago.
Congratulations, quitter. The good news is you can now expect fewer wrinkles, and what woman doesn't want this? A brighter smile and healthier hair. Not to mention, you greatly reduced your risk factor for several deadly diseases. It's like getting a makeover without having to blow your beauty budget. The unfortunate news is your years of smoking put you at high risk for lung cancer, the leading lady killer when it comes to cancer. If you're a smoker, quit. You'll save your health and your beauty. We have a free quit tobacco program offered monthly. Sign up, woman up. If you have a significant smoking history, check to see if you meet the eligibility requirements for our lung screening program. This screening can find cancer early when it's very treatable to cure, so you can get back to being fabulous. You can karate kick cancer to the curb by getting your lung screening done. Check our website to see if you meet the screening requirements. Get screened, woman up. It could literally save your life. Listen up, my Ms., Miss, and Mrs. If you're a career woman, do it so you're healthy enough for world domination. Woman up. If you're a mom, get screened so you're around for a long time and in great health to keep up with the kiddos. Woman up. If you're married, do it for your man. We all know they need our help.
What are you doing? Be a man.
They really need our help. Woman up. This isn't just about you. Well, maybe a little bit. But there are a lot of people counting on you. Call up your doctor today and ask about the early detection cancer screenings available at your Tri-Cities Cancer Center or through your physician's office. Be healthy. Get screened. Woman up.
Well, thank you. If you take nothing else away from that, know that Babe Nyberg over here is as smooth as a baby seal. But hey, we're equal opportunity offenders. November's right around the corner. And so, fellas, this month is for you. We're going to be talking about men's health and awareness. It's our event called Handsomely Hairy for Health. We're going to be talking about ways you can prevent cancer. If you come out on June 2nd, we're partnering with Mid-Columbia Libraries for the second year for this event. Noontime at the Cancer Center, so this is a week from Thursday, we've got the launch for Handsomely Hairy for Health. So we're going to be talking about ways you can prevent cancer. Bigfoot is our mascot this year, so we've got a trail mix bar. It's a make-your-own trail mix, because quite frankly, that's what Bigfoot would do. We're going to be roasting marshmallows out back, making s'mores, getting educated, and talking about what this campaign looks like throughout the month. So join us November 2nd at the Cancer Center at noon. It's open to all of you, but men in particular, we need you to be there. We need you to be healthy. And we need you to be a man. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. That was very informative, and we've had the chance to meet a number of times. I won't talk about the first time we met. Okay, next topic quickly is to talk about another one of our innovations, one of the things the Chamber has done in partnership, and this is in partnership with Washington River Protection Solutions. This is our small business incentive program. You can see a check here for This year, if you can read it from there, 30,000. Over the past several years, Washington River Protection Solutions has provided $210,000. Thank you. That money has allowed us to recognize and award 268 companies. This program, this program focuses on companies that are in stage 2. That is, that they've already developed their business plan and they're moving forward for growth. It's an opportunity for them to move forward quickly. This year, there were a number of members vying for the positions of a $2,000 grant that allows them to use that money to gain additional perspectives. We've had experts come in and help them. There's some opportunities here locally. It's really a great program. And I'd like to recognize WRPS, in particular, 3 folks there that we'll talk about. Melissa Garrard, who's a good friend and also in the chamber, Amy Bachet, and Jerry Hollowell, who I've known for a long time before his hair was gray. So it's good to see you guys here. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. I'd like to ask you all to just stand and be recognized for the contributions you've made to the chamber over the past several years and continue to make, please. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Now we have Haley Taylor, who's going to talk to us from WRPS and go through that list of companies and provide that information to you.
This year, 28 member businesses were selected, many of which are here today. If you could please stand when your company is called and remain standing as I read through this year's entire grant recipients. Tri-City Foot and Ankle Center, Iron Mountain Construction Management, Account Sense, Digital Image Tri-Cities Inc., Sullivan Solutions, Fuse SPC, Winsome Inc., ChemDry of Tri-Cities, the Speech Pathology Learning Center, Mama Two's, Frechette Winery, Express Employment Professionals, Soft Water Specialists, Northwest Paddleboarding, Professional Training Center, Dream Dinners, Style by Deidre, Ernie's Landscaping LLC, The Wet Palette, X Pro Eye Audio and Visual, Chinook Home Healthcare, Tri-City Americans, Swift Rehabilitation, American Family Insurance, Jason Hogue, Tri-Cities Area Journal of Business, Clearview Window Cleaning, Wildlands Inc., Up Angle Drone Services, and let's please give all of this year's winners a big round of applause. Once again, congratulations to all the winners, and we look forward to seeing you after the luncheon for a photo.
Hey, thanks again. Again, please stick around for a photo afterwards. We want to also congratulate the winners. Now we have an opportunity to hear about newest members, and for Elizabeth Holt, our membership director of member development for the chamber, to come forward. She'll recognize new members and talk about October's member of the month.
Thank you, Tony. Like he said, our members are doing some great things. So each month, the Regional Chambers Awards and Recognition Committee selects a member to recognize as outstanding member of the month. The Chamber is pleased to announce Second Harvest as Outstanding Member of the Month for the month of October. Second Harvest has been helping our region fight hunger since 1971. This organization works to bring together community resources to feed people in need through empowerment, education, and partnerships. Each month, they provide more than 2.5 million pounds of donated food throughout the inland Northwest. Food is distributed to their network of food banks, mobile markets, and other hunger relief programs, feeding 55,000 people per week. Please help me welcome Jean Tucker, Development Manager for Second Harvest, to accept this award today. Thank you very much to Jean and the staff and volunteers that make this organization possible. We want to thank Second Harvest for their support of the Regional Chamber and our community, and we're proud to recognize them as October's Outstanding Member of the Month. Next, once again, I'm excited, and we had a big week last week with our member drive, so we have a few people that were able to join us today to be recognized as our newest members. So if I call your name, please come forward, accept your membership plaque from Tony once he's done with this, and please stay after the luncheon for a group photo. So first, we have Heather Philbrook Boynton with Ascent Solutions. We have Molly Holleran with Molly Holleran Voice Studio. We have Joe Brzezinski with JB Productions. We have Jim Zimmerman, Mark Manthai, Jonas Rosenberg, Veronica Quintanilla, and Mark Newman with Summit Funding, the home loan experts. And last but not least, we have Tina Morales with John L. Scott Real Estate. Please join me in welcoming our new members this month. Lastly, I would like to recognize some of the Chamber's longest-standing members. If you could draw your attention to the screen, the members currently listed have been involved with the Chamber for 20 years or longer. We appreciate their participation with the Regional Chamber. Please help me in recognizing these long-standing members. Thank you all.
Okay, that's it. Okay. We're kind of grinding along. We're going to get to our speaker here in just a little bit. Elizabeth, thank you. This is really great. Second Harvest, thanks for all you do. Did you hear that number? 55,000. Let's think about that. We are so blessed to be here, the opportunities we have. Not everybody has that. So this discussion today, I think, will help us, because one of the things we want to do is to try to continue to develop the region and make this, make this productive, and make people here able to live the lives that we all have to enjoy. So I'd like to invite Jess back to the stage again. She's going to introduce our guest of honor, our speaker, Oren Nissim. Jess, please.
All right, thank you, Tony. So the keynote speaker for this month's luncheon on the theme of innovation is Oren Nissim. Oren is an idea creator, product strategist, and serial entrepreneur with over 20 years' experience in the digital world. Oren brings vision, industry know-how, and energy to every endeavor he undertakes. With a diverse background, Oren has cultivated the necessary skills required to strategically guide a company from startup to major player, most notably in the mobile mapping and navigation arena with Telmap, a location-based service that provides details on traffic data, speed cameras, and local offerings, which he founded and then sold to Intel in 2012. Oren's current mission and focus is Brook Inc., a digital health company creating a wellness platform to solve the growing need of chronic disease self-management. Oren's intentions are simple. He's leveraged his fascination with and understanding of technology to create innovative services that solve human problems and improve lives. Here to talk about changing behavior through innovation, please welcome to the stage Oren Nissim.
Hi. Warming up, first of all. It was awesome. Can I get this up? Yeah. It's easier to do it while I'm walking. Thanks for having me, first of all. Is this okay? We spoke about dinosaurs a little bit. My daughter's name's Abigail. She's 7. She walks up to me 2 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're not going to believe it. I was like, what? She says, well, you know, I just saw that in the city of New York, when you want to get from place to place, you step up to the curb, you raise your hand, and a yellow car stops by and takes you. And I was like, oh, man, I feel like a dinosaur now. See, in Abigail's world, you know, when she wants to get from place to place and her parents are taking her parents can, you know, click a button on their phone and an Uber or Lyft is going to come by. And so for her, the definition of taxi is already, a term that she does not understand. For my boys, when they look at a YouTube where a person sits in a Tesla and, puts his hand off and Tesla keeps on driving, that's obvious. Why can't that happen? For me, that's really scary. So, I think I'm in the midst of innovation. I'm in the midst of doing, whenever I look at people that are a lot younger than me today, I'm like, okay, these guys are defining the world completely differently from what I know. So I want to tell you a story today. It's a story of entrepreneurship. So it's a story of a company that we took from a complete garage up to a successful exit over the course of about a decade. And, I want to give you my personal view. So this is not, I'm not going to show slides. This isn't about business making. This is about the 3 rules of entrepreneurship. Number 1, always value your asset base and understand what you got and who cares. Number 2, you're going to fail. You're going to fail multiple times. In fact, the only thing that's going to define your success is how many times you fail. And number 3, and that's probably the most important, is stay standing. So I like to start with a fun little poll. So over the last 10 years, in this room, if you don't mind raising your hands, whoever bought or used a paper map, a map to get you, to show you how to get from A to B, please raise your hands. Over the last 3 years, in this room, by raise of hands, how many of you have used a paper map to get you from A to B? How about over the last month? All right. You see, if we sat here in this room less than 10 years ago, which is really a small fraction of time when you think about it, right? Everybody would have had a road atlas in their car. It was the way to go. In fact, when you go to a gas station, everybody had this wall of those products, like companies like Rand McNally, companies like Thompson. These were the biggest in the industry, and they were making, fine revenues. And this story is really about kind of what happened, okay? So this story starts in 2001 when, I'm a young entrepreneur. By the way, I'm Israeli. I apologize for my accent and my weird English from time to time. And I just joined with this incredible guy, and this incredible guy has found a key way to deal with map information over what was a very weird internet communication line. At the time, internet was based on 28.k modems or 36.6. I don't know who remember those days. So it was incredibly slow. So if you're using products like MapQuest, which was a known name in the industry, right? What you saw was a picture of a map, and if you wanted to move right or left, you needed to, press a button, and you would get the next picture. So it wasn't a very easy thing to use. So people used to kind of look at the map, press print, and take it into their car and go, right? And that was basically the entire decade. We had this incredible asset. So the asset pool was that we were able to take map data and move it around over a very, very small and low internet communication line, and actually the map would recreate itself on the screen for that user. So they could actually do things like zooming in and zooming out and moving right and moving left. We're talking over a decade ago, so the world was like, wow, we can actually do that. 2 small problems. Problem number 1, we're a small dingy company out of Israel, sitting in a garage. Nobody has ever heard about us. Problem number 2, the dot-com bubble just burst. So the reality was that there were no great internet businesses. Some companies got sold, many companies, flunk. And, we were not at a place where we could actually, recreate a internet business in 2001. So we sit around, and I remember, because that was the very first time when this idea came about, which was, well, what if we could actually make this engine, this ability to move maps incredibly easy through a very bad internet connection, to put maps in everybody's hand? What if we could, in fact, move maps out of the office? Because, when you think about the internet, like, people had it in their office and it in their home, and that was that. What if we could get maps to where they actually are being used, which was while people are moving from one place to another, right? So, we said about this idea for a while, and we said, well, who is in the business of actually providing that service to people? And the only people that are out there in doing that were the automotive industry, right? So cars, especially high-end cars, at the time, were the only people who had a GPS-based system in their vehicle. And so, the thought was, well, we can go to them and we can show them that we have a much smarter way than putting a whole stack of CDs or DVDs in the trunk to get map data. I'm sure everybody here experienced this. You go into your car and, if you're using the GPS system in the vehicle, which in and of itself is probably a no these days, but the map is really old. So the whole cycle of actually how to get it there was really critical. So we go out and, we're this young startup and we go out and we mesmerize some people with our technology and some people start to buy into the process. And in 2002, I am at what was the Mobile World Congress of these days. It was called GSM Con. It was in France. And Citroën, which is a car manufacturer, were showing a concept car together with us that had a system in it where you could actually download maps over internet lines. How cool. And then it dawns on me. So failure number one. Car industry is a sales cycle of at least 3 years. And revenue is probably another 3 years. So how can we, as a startup company, survive this cycle, even though they like us, and even though they agree that technically, it's maybe what they should do, how is this all going to work? And so after a year and a half of sales cycles and moving this piece of product into that car manufacturer, we end up saying, you know what, we can't, sorry, which was incredibly painful, by the way. So failure number one. Okay, we say, all right, we had a little bit of funding. We had a couple of projects running in the background, so we could sustain this for a while longer. And really what happened was that the stars were lining up. This is all hindsight. I didn't know this back then. It took me some time to actually get it. But the stars that were lining up was the fact, and I think this is true always. There was basically a point in the cycle of technology development that now allowed for something to happen. And that point in the life of what you are now experiencing today by not using a paper map anymore happened between 2003 and 2004. The point was that 3 industries, completely unrelated and for completely different reasons, all had to react. One was that the US government said everybody that makes a 911 call from their mobile device have got to be accurately located. How do we do that? Well, there aren't that many options at the end of the day. The phone has to know where it's at. So the US government basically propelled an industry to go and figure out a solution to a problem. And many people tried in many, many different assets. We can talk about that more. But in essence, that was a big driver. The second was that the US Army was the owner of the only GPS satellite that was orbiting the Earth. Many more people were using cars, and so many more people wanted to use, GPS services, and everybody who was not in the US, so European Union, Soviet, all these guys felt were uncomfortable about the US deciding at some point to shut our GPS service down and all of our cars stopping. So we're going to start firing our own satellites. Well, guess what happens then? What happens then is that, everybody are making sure that their systems are as flexible, as open as they can be because they want to be able to trade, commerce. So that was a big driver to make that technology much more widely available. The third and the most important was actually a weakness, and that weakness was in the mobile phone manufacturer. The mobile phone manufacturers don't like developing too many SKUs of any one particular product. It's a pain. And so the moment they started putting GPS chips into their phones, I knew that this was just a question of time. It was just a question of time until when will every single phone in the market will actually have a GPS chipset that's going to be incredibly small, incredibly available to do whatever anybody wants to, and at that point, that market will be completely, considered to be mass adoption, right? So 2003, 2004, we're still a very small startup. All these changes are happening, and we're saying, okay, well, we need, our asset is still that we can move maps very simply, very easily. We actually have a navigation tool that we can actually embed into a small device. Who actually drives those devices into the market, right? So there's only two guys. There's either the mobile phone manufacturers or there's the wireless operators, the AT&Ts and Verizons of the world. We were incredibly lucky, and that was a pivotal point for us in those years, to actually cut a deal with both sides of the equation. So we had a deal with what was then a very large company called Nokia. I'm assuming people here heard about it. That was the biggest mobile phone system in the world up until a few years ago. The other one was a very big cell phone provider, operator, that was going to provide it as a service. And these were incredibly trying times because we're very lucky to get this. We're a very small company, right? And at the same time, both markets provided very, very different challenges. One was a manufacturing challenge, how to do it right, how to do it in a way that a phone can get shipped with all of the stuff in it. The other one was basically a service. And both companies failed. So while we had great deals, in both cases, it didn't actually work out well. So lesson number two, or failure number two, I should say. In this particular case, we needed somebody that was much more our size and that was willing to actually spend the energy needed in order to make this come true. Again, bear in mind, there is nothing out there. Everybody still buys Rand McNally product, put it in their car, and get from A to B, right? So consumers aren't necessarily adopting. So we were very lucky to find a small company. You guys remember that we used to have Nextel in the US? Nextel had many subsidiaries in the world. Talk about another company that went bust, right? And in that market, they actually made phones with GPS because of the particular technology that they had. And so we were actually able to show the complete vision of that product working with this particular company. Your first true customer is by far your biggest asset, always, if it's somebody who does it right with you. And in this particular case, they thought that this was going to be a huge differentiator for them. So the first company ever to actually go online, spend money in TV and advertising and all that stuff to show that you can actually do this stuff with your phone was a small wireless operator out of the Middle East. And basically, that account became our true pivot moment, because at that point, we're actually able to show that that complete business case actually works. It's a service, it's alive on a phone, people use it. The people who used it report that they are now feeling the freedom to get lost in the streets because somebody tells them how to go. Yeah, by the way, that's another interesting story, but never mind. And that the business impact was huge because this was an actual service. They sold it bundled with their phones for the equivalent of about $10 or $12 a month. So all of a sudden, they grew a revenue stream of like $3 or $4 million in a single year. Hugely impactful, right? So we used that. We used that as a mechanism to propel ourselves forward. And for a period of about 4 years, we grew and grew and grew in the mobile industry. And basically, we're selling this to more and more wireless operators that were trying to differentiate and building a very healthy business that was based on subscription. Side small story. 2005, I probably got the most meaningful thing in my professional life, which was we won this award by the World Economic Forum as a company that invented a technology that would change how people live their lives. Pretty big deal. Kofi Annan at the time is the head of the UN. I'm going to have coffee with coffee in January 2016, 26. Right? Awesome. So I'm sitting in the car with my wife, and I say, honey, we won this thing, and we're going to go on stage, and it's going to be great. And she says, you're not going. And I said, what do you mean you're not going? And she says, well, our second son, Ethan, was going to be born in that month, so you're not going. And I don't know if you guys ever had the situation whereby all of a sudden everything slows down and you see words coming out of your mouth that you just want to get back and put back and delete this. And I say those words, oh my God. I told her I'll tell you the story today, so. And I say, well, I've been there for the first one, so. Needless to say that coffee has coffee with some other people in January. And thank God, by the way. My wife is definitely smarter, and that was the much better choice. Anyways, I take you forward to another cycle of problem that happened because, you know, my real mission here is to say it's about stay standing, and it's about the fact that there is no sustainability. So now comes 2008. We dominate the market east of the Atlantic, which is awesome. We have X amount of millions in revenue on a yearly basis. We have, you know, whatever it is, 3 or 4 million subscribers. And Google introduces the service of mapping and navigation for free. We live in a very healthy business world. We're selling subscriptions. We're making money. These guys are saying, we don't know how we're going to make money off of this, but never mind. So we're just going to give it away. And we have an oh my God moment again. We had a few of those throughout the years. And in this particular oh my God moment, again, we go back to lesson number 1. What's our asset class at that point? Well, we still have technology. In fact, we had, Intel now has it, but anyways, it was like the most patents in this particular segment were, written by us. But what we had that was more important was that we had a few partners who now have something to lose. Because number one, they have revenue, and the other one is they know that Google's not going to be healthy for them either. These are the mobile operators. And so, we designed something we refer to as crazy mode at that time. Crazy mode basically meant we go back to these partners and we say, well, we have to rewrite this entire plan altogether. If you guys want to also protect your customers, your users, and have them not being stolen away, we're going to have to, partner up here. And so we're willing to forego all of this particular revenue class together, and for you guys to go in and embed this software on every single phone that you ship, because they own shipping. They own the point at which the end customer receives a phone that was completely controlled by these guys. Everybody thought we're crazy. We thought we're crazy because, frankly, we just wrote off our entire business in a day. 2 years. Tripled revenue. So we went from $3 or $4 million to like, 20 or, whatever it was at the time. Subscriber base went from about 3 million to about 15 million. Because they had the power and the will to go out and actually fight this battle together with us. And this is battle time, right? So I guess, the lesson there was that there was a way to move forward, but it required a very drastic change in order for this entire thing to happen. I'll say, by the way, at the end of this whole cycle, we were winning the battles. We were absolutely losing the war. Because as I was seeing backwards, I was like, well, the reality is that the market forces are way too big. Operators are not going to be able to, to remain as dominant. This is going to become a problem, at which point we were starting to look out for a partner. Intel was another, call it, wounded animal in this battlefield because they were not being very successful in the mobile business. Basically Qualcomm took the chip business away from them. They felt that they want to open up a big services business. In order to play in the mobile space in the year 2012, you needed to go through acquisitions. We needed a really good partner, and so this was really a marriage between people who wanted to go ahead and do something. So, we did this acquisition with the thought of we're going to go and we're going to build another ecosystem for mobile that will exist, between new partners, and this is why we're joining this ship. So that was when, the company got acquired. I spent a couple of years at Intel. I'm doing something else today. We can talk about that if you guys want, but I'm not sure that that's the most material thing. I think the most material thing for me today is to say, look, digital mapping is the foundation layer for a lot of the stuff that you see out there today in terms of mobility and location-based ecosystem. We can talk about autonomous cars in that space. We can talk about design and manufacturing. We can talk about small to medium-sized businesses. A lot of things are chewing on this particular foundation that was built for a decade. And be a significant part of. So, number one, stay standing. Number two, always understand your asset base. Number three, you're going to fail. Embrace it. Thanks. Question? Yeah, sure.
All right, who's got questions? I've got a mic. Gary. Here we go.
I'm just going to talk.
Do it.
Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Okay, for the camera. From the back.
So every time you seem to reach a peak, you had this event or market shift that took you back down. And then you had to go recreate, and it was short cycle, certainly shorter cycles than we've seen in decades past. Did you find that energizing or demoralizing?
Absolutely demoralizing in the first couple of days. Here is I think, you know, entrepreneurship is a very particular choice that you make. So it's really about whether or not you want to live that life or not. For me, that's the only life I know how to live. And so for me, it was ultimately energizing because, you know, I had assets to play with, so I could always devise a plan of how I go back and attack. But it requires, you know, it requires a lot of will, and it requires, you know, good partners also along the way, which I absolutely recognize is not always the case. But, you know, if you can get back out there, it's the absolute thing you got to do.
Over here. Then I'll come back to you, Angie.
How do you maintain current growth while you're trying to strategically place it in another direction?
That is an awesome question. You know, I think that you really can't do both well. You know, so I think you have to make a conscious choice of what's going to manage the dip that you're going to see. And it's a gamble. So I think if you're trying to do both at the same time, you absolutely will fail. So for me, it's always about, okay, what's that next thing we're doing? And then whether it's investors, whether it's some of your customers who end up being partners because they actually don't want you to fail. So they might be the investor. They might be the people that will get you through the dip. So it's obviously the latter.
So that's quite a story of your experience. And you mentioned that when you were in the middle of it, you can't recognize things. Now that you're past that, are there things that you would have done differently?
A ton. But I don't know that they would have necessarily a better outcome. You know, you make those changes that you're making when you're in the midst of the battle, and I think it's really important, especially as a business community, to be able to get somebody else to almost like take you out of the picture for a minute and tell you, here's what's happening. You know, I'm part of an organization called YPO. There's a couple of members here in the crowd. There's plenty of other organizations. I think for that, I think that's really, really important because I'm not sure that the person in the midst of it necessarily sees. The other thing I will say is that the one thing I really do regret at the end of this whole journey is that we didn't pause enough times to appreciate the journey. It really isn't about the successful exit at the end of the day. You know, multiple entrepreneurs saying, you know, I'm going to build this business, I'm going to sell it. It's, by definition, that means that it doesn't have a long livelihood. The reality is that we spent over a decade building something that was incredible. And I think we should have paused more and just enjoyed what we're doing as opposed to just looking at that next battlefield all the time.
I know that what you're doing now is vastly different from what you just described. One of the things I mentioned is we're trying to learn how to anticipate change. Can you tell us a little bit about what you are doing, and how did you make that decision, and did you see something? How did you define that opportunity and decide to move in such a different direction?
So thank you. What I'm doing today is we started a digital health company about less than 2 years ago. I have diabetes, and I have been battling with this for over a decade and a half, and I got tired, I guess, of being reliant on the healthcare system to help me figure out my problem, especially that my problem wasn't actually going to go away. And it was a ridiculous cycle, and I just got to a point where I said, well, it's really on me. Everybody who goes through anything that's chronic, it's really on you. The doctor can get you so far. He can do the best he can, and he really does try to, but the reality is that you got to deal with this yourself. And so understanding that, I said, okay, well, we don't understand, our brain doesn't understand what is the cause and reaction in our bodies necessarily. So, but there are things that we could use, and that was what I believe is this next influx point in technology, which is what we use today. Your phone that you carry is the biggest sensor array that exists. It tracks everything you do in a very, very precise manner. You just need to tap into it. If you're wearing a wearable, 14% of US consumers today wear one, so that's a big number, right? All these things are all data, but they're data that's not synthesized into, okay, what does that mean about me right now? So we started attaching that in the world of diabetes. We started attaching that with understanding the profile of what does it mean to be a diabetic, what does it mean over the life cycle of every single day, because people in chronic condition makes multiple micro decisions every single day about their life. And we are basically trying to figure out a way to navigate that thing on a day-to-day basis. So it's almost like think about a personal assistant for healthcare. Think about maybe a health GPS in that context. So that's really what we're trying to do. What we recognized was that technology becomes incredibly cheap. We used to build huge server farms. Today, you can get up and running on Amazon in a nanosecond. It's going to cost you zero, in fact. I used to write checks of millions of dollars a year. So that in and of itself is huge, right? Because all of a sudden, you've got computing power to do whatever you want, really. Number one. Number two, everybody carries this thing, which is incredibly important, because everybody's out and about or at home or whatever. To get somebody to go somewhere, like in the world of, oops, sorry. Yeah, everybody breaks it multiple times, by the way. Great business. If you could basically reach people where they are as opposed to try to force them to come to you, that's a really big deal. I think we can do that today in healthcare. I think we can do that today in a whole bunch of other industries, by the way. So I think that's just a new way to think about servicing, and servicing through technology. It just makes it mass market. So that's why.
All right, I think we have one more question. Yeah. I saw a hand over there.
Yeah, my name is Nicolas Zavala, and the question is, you seem to have done a lot of business in the east and west of the Atlantic. What did you learn from the east, and what can we learn here in the west?
Man, that's a big that's a big topic. I think East is incredibly quick adopting new technologies as a way to just easier living. If you look at regions like China or Japan right now, their use of mobile technology is incredibly different from everything we do here, and works for them and propels their economy forward. I think it's trying to be tested here in the Western market. I think there's a ton of learning to still be had. So I think that's an opportunity in and of itself. Another key is that they absolutely recognize that small markets can be big enough in it of themselves to create a business and sustain a business and grow a business without the need to actually cross a border or cross a region even. And I think that practice, like the practice we do, the practice I do, is, okay, we're going to rule the world. Like, here's new technology. We want to go out there. We want to become the next, The reality is that those are incredibly healthy businesses that thrive within their own economy and are able to keep on propelling forward there. And I think that's stuff we can learn from and copy. I can think of 20 other things, but if you want, we can talk about that more later.